Thanks to Tools Today for sponsoring this video. Well, hello! It's been a while, hasn't it? I had to take some time away to deal with some personal stuff, but I'm back for now, I think. Anyway, let me show you guys today how I built this bookshelf for my home office, because over the last couple of years, I've really started to get back into reading, and even though most of my books are on my Kindle, I still do like to keep physical copies of the ones I'm likely to go back and reference. So I end up building this guy, and what makes this thing unique is this pattern that wraps around the top and side of the case and then continues to the front of the door. And I got this idea when I saw this picture of a house on Pinterest, and I just absolutely love the way this glass wraps around the corner of this building. So I decided to try to incorporate this idea into this build, and yeah, let me show you guys how I did it. All right, so I'm gonna start making the cabinet first, and for that, I'm using some 5/4 walnut stock for this because I have to mill these guys flat to glue up the panels and then mill them again after I pour the epoxy, since it's probably gonna warp or cup while we're waiting for the epoxy to cure. So starting out with something thicker like this will allow us to fix those problems and still have panels that are at least 3/4 of an inch thick in the end. So let's get these guys milled down and glued up into panels. Okay, so I let the glue cure for a few hours before taking the panels out of the clamps. The right panel and bottom panels are individual pieces, but I kept the top and left panels as a single piece. That way, if you take a look at the model here, I can cut this shape out with a jigsaw in one pass, and once that's filled in with epoxy, I can then split the two pieces apart, so that we'll get a seamless transition from the top to the side once the case is put together. And fingers crossed, hopefully it's gonna come close to how I envisioned it. Nothing spilled, so that's already a huge win for this project. I basically just repurposed the same mold that I used for building my desk a few months ago, which still had all the sheeting tape on it. But to get both of these panels in there, I could only wall off 3 of the sides. So I ended up using shims and caulk both underneath the panels as well as along the edges to prevent the epoxy from flowing out the back, which ended up working pretty well. It's been a few days now and the epoxy's cured, so I'm gonna clean up the surfaces and get these down to their final thicknesses. But obviously these are too wide to fit on my jointer and planer, so I'm going to use my router flattening jig with this awesome Amana 2.5-inch diameter slab flattening bit that I got from Tools Today. And what I love about this thing are these solid carbide knives that can be rotated or swapped out if one or more of these edges becomes dull or damaged. And in fact, I actually chipped all 3 of these blades along this edge while I was flattening the slabs for my desk a few months ago. And all I had to do was just rotate these blades to a new cutting edge and keep on working, which saved me a ton of time. So I'm gonna drop a link to this down below in the descriptions if you wanna get one of these for your shop. But I'm gonna surface all 3 of these panels at the same time to ensure that they all come out to the same thickness. And then we're gonna take all of these to the table saw to get them cut to their final sizes. Okay, so before I go ahead and get this assembled, I'm going to swap over to my dado set to cut a rabbet along the back edges for the back panel to sit in. And then I'm going to cut a larger rabbet along the front edges so that when the doors are closed, you only see maybe ½ an inch of the front edge and basically give this entire case a slimmer look that I really like. Since half of these joints are epoxy, I'm just going to use 5-minute epoxy to glue up the whole case and then use the tape method to clamp it all up. Alright, the glue up was pretty straightforward and everything came out square. So now I'm going to reference the epoxy pattern on the top, side, and bottom panels and draw the matching pattern to the left door panel so that we get this continuous look throughout this entire area. And just like what I did before for the case, I'm going to cut the chunk out with my jigsaw, pour the epoxy, get the doors cut to size, and then finally we'll add some shelf pins on the inside of the case and get the back panel and doors installed. So the case is completed and I threw on a few layers of finish on it. Now I'm getting ready to work on the legs, which I'm using some 8/4 walnut that I've already milled down to 38 millimeters thick for the legs and 32 millimeters for the stretchers. Now if you take a look at the model here, each pair of legs will have one piece that's vertical and another that's tilted at 6 degrees. And then they'll all be attached with a stretcher at the top and another one at the bottom. Now I'm just going to use glue and dominoes for this. If you want to get really fancy, you can also use bridle joints or lap joints, which I think would look fantastic. But to be honest, I just kind of want to get this project over with and start using my bookshelf. So I made a last-minute decision to add some bevels at these joints to see how it would look, and honestly, I am not really feeling it, but it's kind of late to do anything else at this point, so let's just not talk about it and move on. Anyway, now I'm going to go ahead and lay out the locations for the dados for holding the shelves, and I'll get those cut at the table saw, which it's much easier to do with the leg already assembled like this, since I can cut the dado into the front and rear legs at the same time. And once that's done, I'll be able to get the stretchers and the shelves attached and finally finish up the project by attaching the case to the leg assembly with some screws. right, that's the end of the build, and I think this thing turned out pretty good. I'm particularly happy with the way the case came out. So hopefully this video was able to give you guys some ideas and inspirations for a project that you're working on or plan on working on. And if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.